Welcome to Gunwerks Long Range University. We have the privilege of training hundreds of clients every year, accompanying them both in training and in the field. We have the joy of witnessing triumphs, but we also share in the heartbreak of missed shots. Each miss provides a learning opportunity, and often the simplest mistakes are the ones that hurt the most. So let's look at correcting the top 5 basic mistakes hunters make under pressure. Coming in at number 4 in our series of simple mistakes that cause heartbreaking misses in the field, we have misholding the wind. And when I'm talking about misholding the wind, I'm not talking about getting my wind call in the first place. That is beyond the scope of this. It's a very complex subject. It's part art, part science. What we're talking about here is when we have the correct wind hold in our head, there's still a couple ways that we can screw that up in the field. In the field, time is normally not your friend. So at Long Range University, we really believe in holding for wind in our reticle. And what I mean by this is we are pushing the reticle into the direction of the wind and counting back the corresponding number of hash marks that represent minutes of angle. And when we get to that correct number, say 4, that number 4 hash mark becomes the crosshair that we use for that shot, versus taking the time to actually dial that windage on the scope. Number 1, that requires that I come out of the scope and look at the windage turret. Now I have to find the target again and get back on the target. And number 2, there's a lot of potential for human error here because it's easy to dial the wrong direction. Now, the way that we can screw this up is if in my mind, I want to hold, say, 4 minutes of right wind. And to do it correctly, I'd push my crosshairs to the right and I would count 4 hash marks to the left. The way I screw it up is I look at my reticle, I count 4 hash marks to the right of the crosshair, and then I move that hash mark to the target. What that does is it actually moves my main crosshair to the left, and I'm holding the wrong direction. Now, second focal plane scopes also cause a lot of misholding for wind. Now, on a second focal plane scope, when I adjust the power, the target image gets bigger and smaller. However, the crosshair remains a constant size. So therefore, if I have like minute of angle hash marks in there, the spacing is only correct at the max power of the scope. In a first focal plane scope, as I adjust the power, the reticle and the target image will get bigger and smaller at the same ratio. So at a first focal plane scope, regardless of the power that is set at, 1 hash mark in the reticle is going to represent 1 minute of angle. Now, if we're using a second focal plane scope, in theory, if we're shooting in the field at a long enough distance that we have to hold wind, we should be shooting at max power anyway. However, this doesn't always happen, and even I have screwed this up multiple times. So this rifle here has the Acura RS-25i scope on it from Revik. It's a first focal plane scope, so regardless of the power I'm shooting at, the spacing and the hash marks is going to be consistent 1 minute of angle. I have an old rifle here, and this rifle, I've had this rifle for approximately 20 years, and in my past life, this was my duty rifle. It was chambered in .308, had a really heavy barrel on it, and this was my duty rifle for many years. And so I've kept it. I've rebarreled it in 6.5 Creedmoor, and I just use it to shoot matches with, to shoot coyotes, shoot steel, practice with, partially because I'm cheap, and partially for nostalgia. I still have this old second focal plane scope on it. And I shot it in a local PRS match last summer, and the issue I ran into, and I lost quite a few points because of this, is the targets were kind of difficult to locate. And what happened is I would have to turn my power down so I get a bigger field of view to help me locate the targets, and then I would crank the power back up to shoot. However, I wasn't cranking it all the way back up. And so instead of shooting at 15 power, I was shooting at like 8 or 10 power. And so my intended 2 minute of angle wind holds were really about 4 minutes, and I was overholding the wind. Now at Gunwerks and at Revik, we only offer first focal plane scopes to eliminate the chance of this happening to you in the field. Join us next time when we talk about the third most common simple mistake that causes heartbreaking misses in the field. Also check out gunwerks.com, and there's plenty of shooting tips located there. And join us out here for Long Range University and attend one of our classes either here in Burlington, Wyoming, or we also teach classes at various locations across the country throughout the year. And you can find this information also at gunwerks.com.